we are honing in on Peloton, the company among a handful that are poised to do better despite the broader market sell-off. And with us to discuss this on the phone is Wedbush Analyst James Hardiman. Thank you for being here. I realize that since the last note came out on Peloton, which was the 20th, things have changed a little bit. They had the settlement regarding Flywheel. The lockup is now expired. But one of the things you hear with coronavirus is, well, people won't want to go to gyms, and then a company like Peloton will do really well. Is that an accurate assumption?
Well, I think the two things you just said there, I think are generally accurate. I think people don't really want to go to gyms, and I think Peloton will do well. I'm not sure how much either in the long run is going to do with coronavirus, right? I'm a big believer that over the course of the next decade, we're going to see a massive shift away from people going to the gym and towards people working out in their homes. In the very near term, it's a nice little, I think, facet of this story right now where at a minimum, there's really no hit from coronavirus to the extent that it doesn't send us into a global recession. But you can't envision a whole lot of scenarios in which coronavirus would be a negative for Peloton. It may be a tiny, tiny positive, but I think over the long run, that's going to just be dwarfed by the fact that a lot of people are going to opt to work out in their homes rather than in gyms.
I'm really curious about this thesis because as someone who goes to classes and doesn't usually work out at home, I would imagine that the traditional sort of community that surrounds a gym or a class environment, yes, you're participating in a class of a sort with a lot of the Peloton stuff, but the people aren't there with you, right? You can't sort of compete. There's not that aspect. There's not that support aspect in the same sense. So I wonder if there's really going to be that kind of secular migration away from the gym environment.
Well, I mean, I think that there's an awful lot of the 700,000 of their members that might disagree with the notion that they're not competing with one another. I own one of these things. I would tell you I'm not really competing with anybody but myself. Having said that, having met with the management team at Peloton pretty recently, I think they are going to be ratcheting up a number of new facets of the offering, new functionality, which is going to increase the ability to not only compete, but to interact with other members. And so I think that's a big part of the plans that they have for the software going forward. And I think, technology is going to allow people that are interested in fitness, interested in community, interested in certainly getting in shape, to do all of those things, but not have to leave their homes, not have to sit in somebody else's sweat, not have to go through all of the issues that I think a lot of people associate with going to the gym. And as we all know, every barrier that exists is an incremental barrier to you actually getting the work done that you need to get done to get in shape. So I do think there's going to be a secular shift there. I don't think gyms are going away anytime soon.
Okay.
But I do think you're going to see a major shift.
One question I have, James, this is Steve Sosnick here, is that Peloton's very much a premium offering. If we're starting to see potentially a little bit of an economic pullback, are there competitors who can come in underneath them? Because I get the thesis of why someone would want the Peloton, but the biggest pushback I would think is largely price.
Yeah, and that's the big bear case against this company. I would tell you that these guys have a lot of quote-unquote competitors. All of them are cheaper than Peloton. I think it's telling that the industry leader is the most expensive product out there. And I continue to go back to this notion that, most exercise programs, exercise equipment, since the beginning of time, fundamentally doesn't work. And by that, I mean, it's not, it's not broken, it's not faulty, but it doesn't get you in shape. From all the work that I've done, this thing seems to work. And if you found something that ultimately works for you, gets you in shape, allows you to get more energy and lose weight, you're going to tend not to nickel and dime that. You're going to tend not to look for an alternative that's, $100 cheaper. I would also tell you that the way that they do the financing, the big sticker price is less of an issue, right? So this thing's $2,300 for the bike, but the way that they finance it, all in between the membership and the bike itself, you're looking at about $100 a month,
which is less than a gym.
A lot of people find that affordable.
Yeah,
yep. And in a lot of instances, it is. Yep.
James, just got to let you know the folks at Bowflex are on the phone. They have a word with you about equipment doesn't work. Wedbush analyst James Hardiman, thank you for being here.